expected in the next few hours because its presence at the table has become increasingly important in today's rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. This marks Prime Minister Modi's 7th consecutive participation at the G7 summit, underlining India's global influence and also relevance. But the spotlight is now firmly on the much-anticipated meeting between Prime Minister Modi and US President Donald Trump that will take place in the evening today. The global political analyst spoke exclusively to Times Now managing editor Zakka and argued that US should apologize for what has happened. Listen in.
I also want to ask you about Prime Minister Modi and President Trump meeting tomorrow in the afternoon here in Evian. It's the first time both men will be meeting since February of 2025. A lot has transpired on the trade issue, the tariffs issue, the Russian oil issue. But the most pressing and the most immediate one is the shooting and killing of 3 Indian sailors by American Navy fire. How do you think these issues will be brought up in tomorrow's meeting?
Well, there should be an apology, obviously. My understanding is this was in Omani territorial waters. There's really no excuse for that. And I understand that neither the United States nor India wants a big fight over this. But, you know, much the same as when India and Canada had a very significant flap over a Canadian citizen that Canada said had been killed by the Indians. They expected an apology. They wanted to make sure it didn't happen again. I expect India expects an apology here. They want to make sure it doesn't happen again. These were Indian citizens that were minding their own business, and they were killed by the United States. In a mistake, obviously. They weren't intentionally targeted by the Americans, but nonetheless, it's a problem. I do think that both leaders want this relationship to maintain a level of stability. I think India has been disappointed that a lot of their leaning into the Quad and leaning into the U.S. relationship strategically, militarily, technologically, has not panned out as well as they would have liked, certainly not given the tariffs that came after Liberation Day. And I think India is hedging to a greater degree as a consequence. So I think the meeting will go well, but I'd be surprised if the headlines reflect a breakthrough of any sort.
And the world's attention is now firmly focused on France today, where leaders of the world's most powerful economies, they have gathered for the G7 summit. Prime Minister Modi is attending his 7th G7 meeting at the time when the global geopolitical landscape is witnessing unprecedented turbulence. From the Iran crisis, the Ukraine war to the trade tensions and the energy security concern, the summit comes against a backdrop of multiple global flashpoints. Now, yesterday, Prime Minister Modi joined fellow world leaders for the traditional G7 family photo and outreach engagement, underscoring India's growing role in the global affairs. But today, all eyes will be on what could be the most closely watched interaction of the summit. The much-anticipated meeting that will take place between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump, all set to take place at around 6:15 p.m. in the evening. The meeting is expected to focus on the host of critical issues. Let's tell you more about that. The meeting is being closely watched, not just for the optics, but for the significance at a critical moment in the global affairs. This will be the first face-to-face meeting between the two leaders since February last year, coming against the backdrop of increasingly volatile geopolitical landscape. The interaction also follows a period marked by differences over trade, tariff issue, making it very important opportunity for both the sides to re-engage and potentially reset the tone of the bilateral ties. So that is the latest we're learning as far as this crucial meeting that